Sosi. Wetlander.
We are back on the record. It is the afternoon of September 8th. It's 1 o'clock p.m. The appearances are the same.
Attorney Hutchinson, you had some more questions for Dr. Almendinger, is that right?
Yes.
So I'm just going to remind you that you're still here.
Dr. Almendinger, in your testimony, you claim that construction can lead to an increase in methylmercury, correct?
To the point that it raises water levels, yes.
With respect to mercury, you're not contending that the project will release new mercury into the environment, correct?
Not new mercury total, but perhaps extra methyl mercury.
But your concerns are mainly with respect to mercury, not methylmercury, or about the mercury that's already present in the wetlands that are crossed by the right-of-way, right?
It's not adding more total mercury to the wetland sediments, correct?
And as you said, you claim that construction will increase methylation through water level changes, right?
Yes, it could.
Specifically, you argue that water level decreases lead to drier soils, which increase the release of sulfate and mercury, correct?
When the water table drops, sulfide oxidizes sulfate. And then, want to continue?
Go ahead.
When the water table rises again, then the sulfate-reducing bacteria can take that sulfate and as a byproduct, encourage the methylation of mercury. So it's the water table rise that causes the methylation, is associated.
So the amount of methylation that occurs corresponds to the degree of variability in the water level, is that correct?
Again,
Yeah, so the smaller the change in the water level, the less methylation will occur, correct?
I don't know for sure, but I presume so. I don't know the quantitative relation.
And your conclusions on methylmercury are based in part on a presentation that Dr. Braunfehren gave during the Section 401 hearing in this matter, is that right?
Yes, partially.
And you're aware that his conclusions were based in part on an undergraduate thesis, is that right?
Well, no, I've heard other testimony say that. I was unaware of it.
So you didn't look into the sources that Dr. Braunfehren relied on in his presentation?
I did not. Except for the Horn, not the Horn, the Burns paper from the Mercury in Reservation.
But the Pigeon and Braunfehren study that he cited in his presentation, you didn't look into
I did not.
that? But in your testimony, you claim that your opinions are really based on another study that you discussed with Mr. Kolakowski by Dr. Coleman Wasik.
Yeah, Coleman was, Joe Coleman was.
Wasik. That study is titled The Effects of Hydrologic Fluctuation and Sulfate Regeneration on Mercury Cycling in an Experimental Peatland, correct?
Correct.
That study analyzed a wetland following extended periods of drying and re-wetting following two severe droughts. Is that right?
Yes.
So when those droughts occurred, the water table was low for extended periods of time. Is that right?
Yes.
And the study analyzed the effects of added sulfate and re-wetting on mercury methylation following those drying periods.
I don't remember if we had added more sulfate after the drying up started or not, or whether that was after the the experimental manipulation of sulfate additions.
So, in any event, the severe drying events that occurred as part of the project, or as part of that study, those droughts lasted for a period of months, correct?
Oh, correct, yes.
Up to 9 months in some places, does that sound right?
Seems right, yeah.
And during this time, there were large drops in water table elevation that resulted due to the droughts?
Large, I'm thinking 18 inches maybe, something like that.
And the effects of re-wetting were based following those large drops, 18-inch drops in water table elevation, correct?
Correct, yeah.
I don't have any more questions for this witness.
Redirect.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon. You can stick with me for, sorry, thank you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Almendinger. We can stick here with mercury. Do you believe construction will cause water level changes?
I believe it certainly can.
If pipeline construction causes water level changes, will that increase methyl mercury levels?
If it causes rises in the water table, yes.
And do background changes in water levels in wetlands create conditions leading to mercury methylation?
Are you asking whether there are other natural cycles that cause water level changes? When you say background, I'm not sure what you mean.
Does natural variation in water levels already create this methylation?
Yes, it does.
Would water level changes caused by the project increase the amount of methyl mercury already being created by those processes?
It should add to the problem, yes.
Were you asked earlier about the challenges of identifying the amount of methyl mercury that would be created by the project?
I was.
Is the challenge of measuring the effect of an intervention in the natural world against a backdrop of other factors a novel problem for science?
No.
Have scientists identified tools to control for other variables to isolate the effect of a causal mechanism studied by those scientists?
I guess it depends on the study, actually. Certainly they're aware of trying to distinguish signal from noise. Background variation obscures what might be caused by a causative factor. So they work hard at that.
I'd like to look at the document here. Could we pull up exhibit 311 if we could? We go to the first page of this just for. Do you identify this document?
Yes,
And what is it?
it's a paper by our former lab manager at the research station where I used to work. Methylmercury declines in boreal peatland when experimental sulfate deposition decreases.
And I would like to turn our attention on page 6 of this document. I'm going to have to zoom in here quite a bit, but on the bottom, the left column, the first paragraph starts with the words "to remove." Could you read that sentence, please?
To remove the influence of... Okay, sorry. To remove the influence of natural hydrologic variability from the longer-term effects of experimental sulfate addition, we normalize methyl mercury concentrations and percent methyl mercury in the experimental and recovery treatments to corresponding values in the control treatment for pore waters and peat in the year, figure 4.
So I'm not a scientist, but is this an attempt by the researchers in this study to isolate the effect of the intervention that they were doing compared to natural variability in the hydraulic cycle?
It is, and they could do that because they had to control half of the watershed.
Is there any reason a similar methodology can be used for this project?
No, they could find other wetlands outside the range of the pipeline and look for variations within those.
Earlier we discussed the burn study identifying that background mercury levels are high. If background mercury levels are already too high, does that mean that adding more mercury won't cause additional harm?
No, I think it's clear it will cause additional harm, even if it's high. I don't see how it could.
You were just asked about some literature in this area, including a purported undergraduate thesis. Was that a document that you relied on to form your testimony?
Not at all.
I'd like to turn back to damming. Clarifying question. Dr. Almendinger, earlier you were asked about pipelines operating as a dam within a trench. Is your opinion that pipelines can act as a dam for water moving parallel to the pipeline or perpendicular to the pipeline?
This is always perpendicular to the pipeline.
If a pipeline partially blocked horizontal flow of water in a wetland, could that nonetheless have impacts on those wetlands?
Yes.
Is that because wetlands are sensitive to even small changes in wetland hydrology?
Yes. Small changes in water level affect the rooting zone of the plants.
Now, if you couldn't prevent damming from occurring, could you at least monitor for those impacts after construction?
Yes.
Is Enbridge proposing to do that?
They're putting water table wells in both sides of the right of way
In how many locations?
at 13.
Would that cover all the sites where this potential damming effect could occur?
No.
I'd like to pull up Exhibit 831 if we could and take a look. We looked at this already. Turn to page 18. Could zoom in a little bit on this bolded list, please. Turn to 30. Can you see that list there, number 1 through 8?
Yes, I can.
You were asked about these earlier. These are the criteria for selecting wetland sites. I want to ask you about each one. So, were these, do you understand these were the criteria that were used to identify the 13 sites we've been discussing?
That's my understanding.
Okay. So, can you read the first one?
Wetland is located within the mainline construction corridor.
So does this mean they're looking to monitor in sites, only sites that are within the mainline construction corridor?
Correct.
Could there be wetlands outside the mainline construction corridor that have hydrologic impacts?
Yes.
Could you read the second number, please?
The wetland will be crossed by the pipeline center line.
So they're only looking to monitor in sites that the pipeline center line crosses. Is that your understanding?
Correct. In addition to number 1.
Could there be impacts to wetlands that aren't crossed by the pipeline center line?
Yes.
Could you read number 3, please?
Pipeline center line crossing distance was at least 100 feet in length to provide appropriate location for groundwater monitoring well placement.
Could there be wetlands that are crossed by less than 100 feet in length that suffer hydrological impacts?
Could be. Yes.
Are you concerned about impacts to hydrology from things beyond blasting?
Yes, I'm concerned about impacts beyond just from blasting only, and other impacts as well.
If there were impacts to wetlands besides the 13 that we've been discussing, would these 13 wells identify those impacts?
I don't think so.
is it possible for those 13 wetlands to not have hydrological impacts, but other wetlands along the route do?
Yes.
Can we turn to page 18 of this document, please? Oh, we're already on 18. We already. Okay. One moment. Apologies, I'm looking for the spot on the page with the closing. Oh, bottom of page, that's perfect. Okay, I do have it right in front of me, I apologize. Could you look at the bottom of the page, the last paragraph?
Yes. Data loggers will be used to collect groundwater elevation data during the frost-free period prior to construction and in year 1, year 2, and year 3 post-construction, or until the performance standards, see section 4.8.1, have been met and reviewed by the applicable agencies.
Please continue.
Where performance standards at specific sites have not been met by year 3 of monitoring, Enbridge, in consultation with the agencies, may extend monitoring at those sites and/or investigate potential reasons for the difference in groundwater elevations.
So do you understand this to say that Enbridge may extend monitoring, but may not?
Yes. If performance standards aren't met. So, it may extend its age.
I want to talk about soil compaction. Would the amount of compaction depend on factors, site-specific factors, like weight of the machine, soil characteristics, and those kinds of things?
Yes.
Would it be possible for you to identify how high of a ridge soil compaction might cause without that data, without data about those factors?
I couldn't do it, no.
Are you aware of anywhere in the record where you could find that data?
No.
Please open to 631, please. Could you please take a look at permutation 226?
Yes.
Could you just take a moment to review this condition? Let me know when you're ready.
No. Okay, ready?
Is this the permit condition you were asked about earlier during cross-examination?
Yes.
Could you go up a few conditions to permit condition 223 and read it, please?
Grading in wetlands, including topsoil stripping, shall be limited to the trench line.
Is what you just read consistent with your understanding of where topsoil will be stripped along the right-of-way in wetlands? I'll show you something to.
It's unclear to me whether 226 is referring to the entire right-of-way or just the corridor of the pipeline.
Fair enough. Let's look at exhibit 630, please. And let's just jump to page 102. Can we zoom in on this image? Do you recognize this figure?
I do.
When you were discussing a figure in the plans earlier, is this the figure that you were referring to?
Yeah, it was.
Can you describe what this figure illustrates in general terms?
Well, it illustrates the layers of soil and subsoil in the right-of-way of the pipeline in wetlands, I believe, where they have segregated the topsoil and the subsoil from the trench area itself. But under the equipment, they have kept the upper layer of the soil.
So just for clarity, underneath those machines, there's a horizontal black line, and what is that identified as?
That's the topsoil.
And are those the machines you've been referring to that would create the ground pressure that would compress the topsoil?
Yeah, images of those machines.
Okay. Actually, sorry, I apologize. Move it right back up. Just for clarity's sake, for the record, could you please scroll down and read the name of this figure?
Typical topsoil segregation, trench line only.
Thank you. Okay, now I'm done, I promise. Do you believe that Enbridge has collected data adequate to establish the depth of confining layers in wetlands along the route?
No, I don't.
So, have they necessarily ruled out that confining layer could exist at the depth of the trench?
Not at all locations, no.
We looked at the soil borings earlier. Does the fact that soil borings done at sites of potential horizontal directional drilling didn't affirmatively find artesian conditions means that there aren't artesian conditions in wetlands along the route?
No, it just means they didn't find them where they drilled.
So do you find the depth to artesian groundwater that some of these bores found being relatively deep, giving any confidence that there aren't shallow artesian conditions along the route?
No, there could be.
And in response to your supposition that they didn't sample in wetlands, did you look at some specific borings earlier?
I looked at some of the summaries of the borings in what Appendix B, is that the table?
We'll pull up Exhibit 816 and just pull to page 232. Just scrolling, please, Attorney Curry. Were you asked earlier on this page about boring 37C?
Yes.
And you read about it, and did you confirm that this boring was collected within a delineated wetland boundary?
Yes, I did.
And were you then asked to look at a handful of other borings?
Yes.
And were some of those borings in the vicinity of wetlands?
Yes.
Does a handful of samples near wetlands give you confidence that wetlands along the route won't have shallow artesian conditions?
No.
Why not?
Well, because the wetlands have been described as overlying layers of clay, which is a confining layer. And it seems like we've been told that they're lying on top of confining layers. which is, and they're shallow.
Does the additional investigation that Enbridge did in 2022 in moderate risk sites give you confidence that the project would not encounter shallow artesian conditions along the route?
No.
Why not?
Well, they hand augured a number of sites, and they were interesting. It's not bad data to collect. I don't think it was comprehensive enough to look for potential conditions along the rest of the route. They only looked in the few sites that they had said were moderate.
Do you believe that they had the data needed to accurately characterize which sites had moderate or high artesian risk?
Well, no, I think they missed the boat on that. I think there were more sites than they had pointed out in their analysis of the boring logs from the HDV sites.
I want to talk about piezometers. Are the type of piezometers you're proposing to use difficult to install?
I don't think so. I mean, the ones I use, I hand drove using fence post drivers. Now, I was younger then. It's difficult. So,
In the context of a big project like this, would these piezometers be expensive to use?
no.
So do you see any reason why using them in a fairly large number of wetlands would be terribly burdensome in this context?
I don't think so.
Given the potential consequences of an aquifer breach, would it be worthwhile to use piezometers in as many wetlands as you could?
I would think so, yes.
Earlier you were asked what the total number should be, and you said you weren't sure. Should it be 0?
I'm sure it should not be 0.
Did you discuss earlier the use of sheet piling to make trenches safe to work in?
Yes.
Does the fact that sheet piling is intended to keep trenches open to be safe to work in prevent aquifer breaches from happening?
No.
Do it have any relationship at all to the likelihood that aquifer breaches from happening?
Well, if you're using sheet piling, that of course raises the risk of an aquifer breach.
No further questions at this time.
Should we still take any questions? No questions. No.
Do you have just a few brief questions, or you want to proceed? Thank you, Dr. Almendinger, and I'll be more brief with you than the last time we spoke. I just want to drill down a little further, forgive any sort of pun associated with that, with some testimony you just presented to your council about the potential impacts of aquifer breach and trenching. So, again, the depth of the trench would have to intersect in some way with the bottom of a confining layer in order for an artesian aquifer breach to occur, correct?
If for trenching would be the cause, or is that's where we're excluding sheet piling and we're just doing trenching
Yes,
allowed?
just the trenching piece.
Okay, yes, the trenching would have to somehow compromise the bottom of the confining layer.
And the confining layer of most consequence that's been identified in the project area is the clay layer, correct?
Is the clay layer?
Yes.
There are probably many clay layers in these multi-layered systems, so.
And are you aware of any information which suggests that the base of that clay layer is anywhere near 10 feet, if that's the bottom of the trench?
I have no data on the thickness of that clay layer.
And so if I understand your testimony, it's essentially could be,
Yes.
but no observation, no measurement,
I have no
nothing
measurement. I know nothing.
suggests to you that that would actually be the case?
No, I have no data on that.
Now, forgive me if this is an incorrect characterization. I intend this essentially to respect your qualifications. I understand you to be a research scientist. Is that a fair characterization of what you do?
Yes.
And as a research scientist, when you're testing a hypothesis for validity for the outcomes that you expect, it's important to carefully design your study to be able to be valid and present valid information as opposed to other factors that may influence those outcomes, correct?
Correct.
And in your view as a research scientist, is isolating the effects from additional sulfate in a demonstration project, isn't that a vastly different undertaking than attempting to isolate methylation effects from construction on a landscape of this scale? The two are apples and oranges, are they not?
Well, I look at it this way. We have a lot of data on mercury from other sites, and they could be compared to the sites along the route. I mean, it's in that case a one-to-one comparison, and they could act as controls on the pipeline now. Those seem to be more similar than apples and oranges to me, I guess.
So, if I understood your testimony correctly, one could use the basic principles of designing a study that were implemented for the sulfate addition project and apply those to a larger scale project like the Enbridge Land Fire project.
I think the key here is to find the control sites.
In the case of your demonstration project, you have ready access to control sites directly adjacent to, and you have the time necessary to be able to evaluate those control sites, correct?
Correct.
And the spatial extent of those control sites was similar to what you had at the active research site.
Correct.
And they in no way compared to the spatial extent of this project, correct?
Well, the pipeline is, yes, 40 miles long, 41 miles long, and our study site was several acres.
And again, there's no addition of additional sulfate proposed as part of the project?
Correct.
Or identified as part of the project?
No.
And so again, we're back to trying to suss out from an observed impact what causes that can be attributed to. That is in no way comparable to the level of scrutiny one would be able to apply to a demonstration wetland, is it?
See, I would look at this and I think I would want to know. I would want to find the control sites, and I would want to compare the pipeline versus control. And I don't know that is impossible. I would think that's what they're doing with the water levels. They've got a control site and a reference site, and they're comparing it to what's going on in the pipeline. Why not do that with the methyl mercury as well?
Just in terms of the actual effort needed to get there, they're significantly different, are they not?
Well, along this pipeline, there would be a lot more effort than there would be in a research site that's only a couple acres big.
And a lot more uncontrolled variables, correct?
Probably, yes.
And so if I understand, I'll wrap up on this point here, but so if I understand your answer here, it could theoretically be possible to design a research project that could attempt to attribute sources of methylation in this environment. Correct?
I'm sorry, say that again. I want to,
I'll rephrase. It could be possible to design a research project to try to attribute sources of methylation in this environment, correct?
correct, you could design a project.
And that would be a first of its kind anywhere in the world type study, would it not?
Well, that I don't know.
You're not familiar with any of your experience with mercury, correct?
In studying mercury and construction projects, no, I don't know any other projects like that.
Now, just a few more questions here with me here. We talked a little bit about monitoring wells and wetlands in which they have to be placed. In your experience with wetlands, are water wells the only way to detect hydrological alterations?
Well, no, there are other hydrological alterations besides water level.
And so that's a tool to be able to understand hydrologic effects within wetlands, correct?
Yes,
Another one would be the surface expression of wetland vegetation, correct?
correct.
Over time, one could look at the vegetation and tell, or at least hypothesize whether changes to the hydrologic regime were occurring, correct?
Yes,
And another would be the presence, absence, and extent of identified wetlands, would it not?
yes,
Over time, one could compare the presence of a wetland to its extent at some later point in time and have a sense of whether there are hydrologic effects occurring, correct?
yes.
Thank you. I don't have additional questions.
Sweet Hutchinson. Chief Engineer.
Just a couple. With regard to trenching, you've been asked. Oh, sorry, did that on? That's on. Earlier asked about risk of trenching and the depth to artesian conditions. You were asked if you had data on the confining layer, depth of confining layer in those areas. Does Enbridge have that data?
No,
Does DNR have that data?
no. Only the borehole sites.
No further questions.
Any follow-up?
Just one. To obtain, if we take the hypothesis that there is a confining layer underlying all of these wetlands, to obtain that, one would have to do subsurface investigation, one, to determine the existence of, and two, to determine the depth of the confining layer, correct?
Yes, I would say the existence and the thickness of the confining layer.
No further questions, thank you.
Any additional questions from the applicant?
No, I'm done.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
testimony. We appreciate it. My understanding is that the next witness is now scheduled for tomorrow. We would like to continue today, is that right?
Correct.
Anything that the parties would like to address this afternoon?
Nothing from environmental petitioners.